What's going on, YouTube? So when we first sampled Volvo's new flagship SUV, the EX90, we were impressed by how luxurious and high-tech it was.
But the real test is living with it, which is exactly what we did for the past week.
So, after putting it to the test, do we think this is the best Volvo? Well, let's go ahead and find out. Let's go ahead and get started here with our spec dump. So of course, under the hood, you've just got the frunk since this is a full electric product. And in terms of the foundation of this, it's a 111 kilowatt hour lithium ion battery pack. There's two different performance outputs. We have the higher one, 510 horsepower, and our combined range is 300 miles.
Now the base price for the EX90 is $80,000, and if you're looking to buy one or any new vehicle, we'd encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes to get the best price. Now, like we said at the introduction, this is a 7-day review, which of course means that we're going to do things like get our official Kentucky sound level reading. By the way, Volvo says that this is the quietest car they've ever made, so we'll be putting that to the test, as well as discussing our real-world range and efficiency figures, and at the end discussing if we like it better, the same, or worse after living with it.
But let's go ahead and close up the hood because as you can probably already tell, it's a pretty futuristic looking vehicle on the outside as well as the inside. Now, like I just said, this has a pretty futuristic design, but it's also distinctly Volvo. They've managed to keep all the brand's signature elements on board so that everybody we've shown it to both recognizes it's a Volvo, but also thinks it looks quite cool and modern. Now, of course, in the front, being an electric product, it is going to be largely sealed off with the full body color finish. Down here in your lower fascia, you have some gloss black, but really the real star of the show is right here with our lighting. So these lights are really very cool. You've got the signature Thor's hammer design, but what is awesome about these is these actually physically split. So the daytime running lights will split and the headlights themselves will emerge, and it can actually wink at you when you walk up to the vehicle, which is really clever and certainly a crowd pleaser. The headlights themselves are super bright at night as well. And then as we take a look at the back, just like with the front, it's really a kind of modernized interpretation of the signature Volvo look.
Yeah, I think it looks really, really handsome. And as far as some of the individual design elements, we have a spoiler up top, a big wiper right through here, and then our newest Volvo signature taillight design. It's actually not fully connected, unlike things like the XC90, but it is going to be very premium when it comes to the lighting element. So as you can see, we have an LED brake light, LED reverse light, and the LED amber turn signal indicator. These taillights also have animations as you approach the vehicle at nighttime. We have Volvo branding through the center section, and then down at the bottom, of course, is electric, no exposed exhaust outlets, but we can tow 4,850 pounds.
Now, as far as the wheels are concerned, you've got a few options from 20 to 22-inch alloys. These are the 22-inch alloys that are optional on the Ultra trim level. That's the top model. And these look really, really good. The design overall really pops. It's a combination of alloy and also some aero covers to maximize your efficiency. As we move up to the mirrors, gloss black finish on board as well, kind of setting on top of this camera housing. And in terms of the technology, it's got everything you would expect for a luxury SUV, including auto dimming on the driver's side, a blind spot monitoring, and heating, and power folding. I was like, oh, I missed one. Heating and blind spot monitoring.
Now at the side of the EX90, our overall vehicle length is 198.3 inches because, of course, this is a 3-row SUV. It's a pretty good size. It's actually a little bit bigger than the XC90, for instance. And then as far as some of the features, you have blacked out roof rails up top, blacked out window surrounds. And then as far as your safety systems, of course, you expect to have a lot of them. And you may have actually noticed this big sensor up here on the roof. This is actually a LiDAR sensor, and that's because this vehicle will be capable of some very advanced systems later on, so definitely excited to see what Volvo has in store for that. And of course, it goes without saying, all of your active safety features are standard equipment. But guys, there is a flagship level interior that we can't wait to talk about and our impressions of it. But first, if you're new here, we're brothers and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We started young, and since then we have reviewed over 2,000 vehicles at every price point.
No matter what you're looking for, from humble to high-end, we'd love for you to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family.
Let's learn a lot and have some fun with all the latest cars. Now let's move on to the interior. Like many elements of this vehicle, they're definitely not ordinary Volvo. So this doesn't have a traditional key fob. What you would use is phone as key, or you have the NFC card as backup. They also have this little accessory kind of Bluetooth key, but you do have to recharge this on the wireless phone charging pad. Now, nevertheless, regardless of how you choose to get inside, when you approach the vehicle, it will sense you coming up to it. The headlights usually animate, but as I said at the beginning, normally it does wink at you, but also sometimes it doesn't know you walk up to the vehicle until you grab the door handle. As you can see, it is a flush mount door handle. But let's go ahead and check out this interior. This is certainly a cabin that makes a great first impression when you look inside. There's a lot of nice looking materials and very futuristic design. But before we get into those details, let's start with our seats. So one of the things that's different about the EX90 versus the XC90 is the fact that this is a leather-free cabin. So that means all models are going to get the Nordico, which is a leatherette. In terms of the quality of this, it's not our favorite. Certainly at this price point, we would prefer to have the Nappa leather option because this is not a very realistic feeling leatherette overall. It's kind of plasticky feeling. And as you can see, there's no perforation on this because this seat is not ventilated. Now, the seats themselves have 12 ways of power adjustment. They all controlled through this one knob here. We also have power thigh extension and bolsters on the Ultra, and we have massage as well, and that massage is very, very good. But let's go ahead and climb on inside. Now, closing up the door here, it does have soft close doors if you fail to close them completely. And let's look around at the rest of the cabin materials. So we've got a lot of beautiful materials, including a leatherette through this armrest section, a lot of open pore wood you'll see as we move through, and some more leatherette all across the dash with the stitching detail. Beautiful metal speaker grills. That all continues through here. A little bit of cloth for contrast, and then more of this beautiful open pore wood. One of the really cool things about this is this looks like totally normal wood in the daytime, but it actually has backlighting, so at night the lights shine through the wood in a special design. It's really a cool idea for the ambient lighting and well executed. But let's go ahead and start it up. There's no traditional push button start, so what you'll do is put your foot on the brake, shift to drive or reverse. All right, and digging into some individual details of the interior, we'll begin with the unconventional gauge cluster. So I would get back in here and get that booted back up again. But as you can see, it's a floating 9-inch display, just kind of attached right here to the steering column. So it's front and center, and also you can never obstruct your view of it with the steering wheel. I think that's a pretty cool idea. Furthermore, you have some different designs you can choose and a head-up display, which is standard equipment up at the top. Now, as we pull back to the steering wheel itself, as you can see, it's a beautiful two-tone design on board. The wheel itself is heated, and it is also power tilt and telescoping. And that's something I do want to mention, is the fact that it is power adjusting. The mirrors also, of course, adjust, but it's going to be inside of the display. So during this week, we did actually have some trouble adjusting it because when you go into the menu to turn on the adjustment and start to adjust it with the steering wheel, we actually had the system crash. So it kind of put us in an awkward position of trying to figure out how we could get the system to actually let us properly adjust the steering wheel and mirrors before we took off driving. Another little quirk of this model is over here. You'll notice we actually only have 2 window switches. That's because you have to press this button here, and then now those same 2 controls will actually do the back windows. So that's also, again, like a little quirk of this model with the technology that they've thrown in. Now, let's take a look at storage, though, because storage is a really great thing, definitely better than any of the current crop of Volvo SUVs, and that begins here with our center console. Inside, we've got donuts, because here at Car Confections, we like to do the donut test and check the volume. We have 11 donuts inside of here because even though this kind of looks narrow, this goes down a long ways. And that's far from all of the storage we have. You'll see we've got under this piece of wood more cup holders, wireless phone charging pad, and then just this gigantic center pass-through. You can store just about anything, just kind of come in here and throw it down. Nice carpet inside as well, and then you have your USB connections. Of course, as I was already showing off, we've got the electronic shifter up here on the column, so you just pull down for drive, press up for reverse. When you go into reverse, you'll be greeted with the standard 360-degree camera system. This is the default view with the overhead as well as the backup view. You can also click right there and go into a 3D view and spin all around the vehicle. The graphics are very responsive on this, and they look quite nice on this large display. Then just press the end of that stalk right there for park. Now you might have noticed on the floating console, pretty much the only real physical button in this entire vehicle is right here for our audio system. So this is going to be controlling two different audio systems. You have a standard Bose sound system, or you can get the Big Dog audio system, which is what we have on today's example. It's a 25 speaker Bauer & Wilkins audio system. It's about $3,200, but it does sound phenomenal, and let's take a sample of it. Yeah, so just like in other Volvo products, the sound system is really a highlight. It's just absolutely phenomenal. Delivers such great details that you really don't hear in most audio systems, even in luxury vehicles. So definitely, if you're a big audiophile, you're going to want to upgrade to that Bauer & Wilkins audio system. And now that really just brings us to this main infotainment screen. So this is housing a lot of the functionality of this vehicle. Really, most of the functionality of this vehicle is inside of this display. Now, at 14.5 inches, this is larger than pretty much any other Volvo vehicle, including the XC90. And you'll notice down at the bottom, that's going to be the first thing. Your climate controls are inside of this. To make adjustments, you tap there, and then you can adjust up and down. You'll notice we have our 3-stage heated seats that I was mentioning earlier, but we don't have the ventilated seats on today's example. If I tap there, we can, what does that do? Oh, that's what I thought it was supposed to do. And when you tap into that, that brings you into the main menu where you can make a lot of different adjustments. I am happy, though, that this does actually have physical vent controls instead of digital in the screen controls. But as you just kind of saw demonstrated just there, this system is far from perfect. It definitely has some quirks, so I'll kind of describe a few of them. As you saw, the performance is a little shaky at times, and I mentioned with the steering wheel as well, different things you do, it'll lag, freeze up, kind of restart the menu structure. Also, it's just very confusing in the overall layout of the system. It's kind of hard to find what you're looking for. There's lots of menus that are layered, kind of illogically arranged, and we have certainly, through the course of this whole week, really struggled to get used to where things are. And we, again, have been in just about every type of vehicle, all types of advanced technology. You know, I don't want to sound like a elderly old man saying, oh, this different technology, but, you know, like I said, we've been in pretty much everything. 2,000 cars at this point. This is one of the most confusing systems that we've ever experienced, that's for sure. And as you can see, very important things are inside of the system itself. Now, let's talk about, though, some of the features that you get. As you see, you've got Google apps built into the system, including Google Maps. That part is really nice. This can take up the whole display, basically, which really looks super sharp and crisp. It's got Apple CarPlay, but for some reason it does not have Android Auto. I guess it's because that it has the Google built in. They thought you don't need it, but I certainly would appreciate having it overall. And then down here at the bottom, you have some shortcuts, but these do actually kind of rearrange themselves randomly, so it's kind of hard to get used to where those are located as well. Now, moving on from that, we've got the auto-dimming mirror at the top. All models will also get a large panoramic sunroof. Just be aware that unlike other Volvo products, this one is a single-piece fixed glass. So that means that you cannot open it up. We also don't have a sunshade, but you can buy an insert if you want.
And now let's check out the rear seat area for the Volvo EX90. Now, this area is pretty much the same as most other Volvo products. It feels very similar to me, very similar to something like an XC90. So if you're used to that, you'll definitely feel right at home back here. Now, let's talk about these space figures first and foremost. We're sitting at about 36 inches of legroom and 41.6 inches of headroom. The headroom is really fantastic. As you can see, there's tons of just open air back here. Of course, not having the sunshade kind of helps your headroom a little bit as well. And as far as the official Car Confections ruler, we of course brought that along. This seat is adjusted to Drew, who is 5'8". I'm 5'9" for reference, and we can see how much knee room you can expect on average. About 8 inches. That's pretty good for a full-size adult sitting back here. Also, my feet can easily slide up underneath of the seat. Now, speaking of the seats themselves, you'll see that we do have bench seating. That's going to be the standard arrangement. You can also get captain's chairs if you prefer to have that. Just be aware that would reduce your seating capacity down from 7 down to 6 passengers. Now, if you have the bench seat, you have a couple cool features. First of all, you have this, which has some pop-out cup holders inside. It's a little finicky, as you can see. Got it. And we also have a integrated booster seat. So that's kind of a cool feature that Volvos have been known for. You have that just like integrated nicely itself into the seat. Now, as far as the features are concerned here in the center section, we have quite a lot of that. We have 4-zone climate, so because of that, we have each zone of climate back here. We also have heated back seats. Ventilated back seats are not available, but the heated seats are actually standard on every EX90. Down below that, we have our own climate vents, and then we have USB-C ports. We additionally have more vents that are located in the B-pillar. And then as far as the door trim is concerned, it's going to be the same as the front. So a really nice setup, lots of leatherette, wood trim going through this intersection. And then as far as door storage, it is going to be a little bit narrow, but it's actually quite long, so you can fit quite a bit of stuff in there. And let's go ahead and check out the third row. Of course, that's a very important part of an EX90. After all, in order to get back here, you just grab this little lever. That's going to allow you to slide the seat up and out of the way. And by the way, the seat does slide forward and back here in the second row. And let's go ahead and talk about the rear seat area. I'm going to actually fold this middle seat down so you can get a good look at the rear here. We're sitting at about 31 inches of legroom here in the third row, about 35 inches of headroom. So that does mean for someone size like myself, I'm 5'9", the headroom is going to be a little bit tight, that's for sure. My hair is brushing the ceiling, and if I lean back, I'm a little cramped. But the legroom itself is pretty okay. I don't have any additional knee room back here, but we can slide the seat forward to give myself a little bit more space. I do have room for my feet to slide up underneath of the seat, and the thigh support is honestly not too bad. They have built up the floor a little bit, so that makes it a little bit more comfortable. Now, as far as features are concerned, we have a small cup holder here. We also have a USB-C port. We have vents that come out of the pillar here, as well as some lighting. Overall, I'll say that this third row is very similar to something like an XC90, so I'm going to say this is fit for the in-laws. Now, as we walk up to the cargo area, of course, we do have a hands-free power tailgate, standard equipment. And let's talk about how much cargo space you're going to find in the EX90's area. So about 13 cubic feet of space behind the third row of seats. If we fold those down, we'll be looking at about 36 cubic feet, and as a maximum, around 74 cubic feet with all of these seats folded down. Now, if you're curious as to how that compares to other mid-size SUVs that you could be cross-shopping this with in the luxury segment, we'd encourage you to go to carconfections.com/vehicle rankings. Now, the reason you do that is because we've gone through all the gas mid-size luxury 3 rows, and we've ranked them in individual categories that might matter more or less to you, such as technology, cargo space, powertrain, reliability, and resale value. So if you want to make an informed buying decision, we definitely recommend you check that tool out, carconfections.com/vehicle rankings. Now, as far as, back in this cargo area, we do have buttons here on the side to power fold the third row seats. As you can see, they're like a touch capacitive setup. that's certainly a welcome change over the XC90, which is still not including a power folding third row, so that makes it so much easier, just one press. Now, in order to fold the second row, though, I will have to go up there and do it manually. Now that I've gotten all of those seats folded down, as you can see, the cargo floor is completely flat, which I definitely appreciate. Let's get our cargo length, width, and height figures. So behind Drew's 5'8" driving position, you can expect 84 inches of cargo length. That's actually quite good. From behind the second row of seats, you can expect 48 inches of cargo length. From behind the third row, 23 inches. As far as the opening width, we're sitting at 44 inches. Overall height is pretty decent at 30 inches tall. And then as far as cargo load-in height, that's going to be sitting at about 30 inches as well. I do want to point out there are buttons back here that will actually raise and lower the air suspension. So as you can see, the vehicle can lower down. Actually, look at that. That's a lot to get that cargo load-in height all the way down to 26 inches. So that's certainly a big benefit if you're loading in heavy items. Now, underneath of the floor, we have quite a lot of space under here, so that's nice. We also do have a tiny bit of front space, although it's really only about 1 to 3 cubic feet, so it's really just enough for like a charging cable or something along those lines. Well, guys, here we are behind the wheel of the all-new Volvo EX90. We cannot wait to show you what this vehicle is capable of out on the road, as well as get things like our official Car Confections sound level reading. First, though, we need to start with a hard acceleration.
Okay, that was 60.
That's quick.
Indeed, it is quick. Now, like we mentioned at the beginning, there's 2 different versions you can get of this model. Both of them have dual motor all-wheel drive, but there's basically 2 power outputs. We've got the upgraded performance model. This is going to give you 510 horsepower and 671 pound-feet of torque. So those are obviously very big numbers and certainly move this vehicle up to speed quite quickly.
Yeah, it's just going to throw you back in your seat. The torque is really the thing that I think you will notice the most. It's nearly 700 pound-feet of torque. Now, what's that good to get this vehicle to 60 in? Well, 4.7 seconds. So it's an under 5 second to 60 vehicle. Of course, electric SUVs are very heavy as well. So that's pretty impressive that you're able to go to 60 under 5 seconds. Compared to the standard model, this is a $5,000 upgrade. So just keep that in mind. $5,000 to get the performance all-wheel drive model. It does come standard with a twin motor all-wheel drive system, though. That's going to have 402 horsepower, 568 pound-feet of torque. So you're down about 100 horsepower and about 100 pound-feet of torque. Overall, 0 to 60 is 1 second slower for that model, so 5.7 seconds. Honestly, if you're, price conscious, I don't think it's a necessary option that you get this twin motor performance model, because both of those will feel fast, although this feels really, really quick.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, big pothole.
That was a big one.
The other thing to consider is, and we'll talk about this in a little bit as far as specific numbers, but actually the range between the 2 models is the same, so you can get the extra performance and keep the good range. I also want to mention the battery pack. Both of the models do come with a 111 kilowatt hour lithium ion battery pack. 107 of that is what is the usable amount, which is, pretty good, especially for the amount of range, which we'll talk about again in a little bit.
Yeah. But we are on our designated strip of road to discuss ride quality as well as get our sound level reading. For ride quality, I have nothing but good things to say. If you choose the Ultra model, you're going to get the adaptive air suspension on this model as standard equipment. So that really makes your ride fantastic. As you saw on the outside, we actually have the biggest wheel option, and this thing rides fantastic. I think this is a huge upgrade. We've actually had a XC90 on loan here with the air suspension as well. This feels way better to me than that. It's extremely comfortable. Even if you hit a large bump in the road, it does a fantastic job of just smoothing that out. You'll see that demonstrated as we go over a bridge abutment here, but it really feels like a luxury SUV should, and I'm pleasantly surprised by that. Also, in typical Volvo fashion, the seats are fantastic as well.
Yeah, they're absolutely awesome. They hold you in place nice. It's like floating on a cloud.
And I can get a massage, which I appreciate.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, now Volvo says this is the quietest cabin they've ever made, and we finally have this car back in Kentucky to put that to the test. So let's go 55 miles per hour and see how quiet it is. They ain't lying, guys. 49.5 decibels is what we were sitting at as our official Kentucky sound level reading. That is really, really good. I don't have to sit here and guess, though. I can go to carconfections.com/sound level readings to see how it compares to other vehicles. And not only does that make it the quietest electric car that we have ever tested out on the channel, it also makes it one of the very quietest vehicles that we have ever tested on the channel, gas, at any price point. And that includes things like Rolls-Royce models. So really, really impressive stuff. I have to say, living with this vehicle, it's quiet, the cabin feels serene, and the audio system is just so good. I'm relaxed every time I get in it with the ride quality, the quiet cabin, the audio system, so good.
Yeah, it kind of feels like you're in a studio setting. Yeah. You're surrounded by all the speakers. There's no like rattles or creaks or anything in this cabin. It's very solid. All right, so we made it out to a back road at this point, and we went ahead and put the vehicle in its performance all-wheel drive setting, which gives you maximum power. Steering and suspension feel are both set to firm, and let's kind of go around this corner here. Yeah, so overall, we have found that this vehicle is certainly not sporty, even when you put it in those settings. It's definitely designed mostly for ultimate comfort, as a good Volvo should be. That being said, you might be surprised that a three-row can move like this can move, because obviously you carry a lot of weight down low. When you go into the stiff suspension, it does minimize the body roll, which is quite present in the soft suspension, but this actually makes a significant difference when you put it into this mode, so you can chuck it around some corners and stay pretty flat.
All right, and if you do that a lot, you will need to charge this vehicle. So let's go ahead and dive into some charging information as well as range. Those are, of course, important things for an electric vehicle. We have 250 kilowatt max speed for our charging. It's a 400 volt architecture, so that is not the fastest charging EV out there. However, it is going to be faster than a lot, actually probably the majority of EVs, so not too bad when it comes to that. And let's also discuss range with this model. So like Drew insinuated earlier, regardless of if you choose the performance model or just the standard twin motor all-wheel drive, you're going to have the same range figures. So it's 300 miles if you choose the larger wheels, which is what we've opted for, or up to 310 miles if you choose the smaller wheels on the outside. So those are both pretty good range figures. They're not going to be like class leading. Something like a Rivian R1S would be able to deliver more range, Escalade IQ, for instance. But overall, I think those are good enough range figures. Now, when it comes to efficiency, that's also something that we, test out here at Car Confections. It doesn't give you the miles per kilowatt hour, but we kind of manually discerned that by dividing. It says 37 kilowatt hours per 100 miles, which means that we're sitting mathematically at about 2.7 miles per kilowatt hour, which is pretty efficient, considering it was a little bit on the colder side this week when we were testing this model out.
And now let's do today's slam dunk and airball. We're going to say the slam dunk is the luxury experience. This is a really nicely done luxury SUV. especially when we're talking about things we just demonstrated, ride quality, which is top notch, being the quietest Volvo ever, super, super quiet. It really does feel like, you know, just like I said, a top-notch luxury experience.
Yeah, we just had a Rivian R1S not long ago, and I think this vehicle kind of exemplifies the legacy OEM type of thing. Like, it feels extremely luxurious, where the Rivian kind of, you know, went a little haywire when it came to the luxury feel.
Yeah, and the build quality is really there. From the South Carolina factory they build this at.
Yeah. Now on the flip side, the airball. What we're going to say is just the overcomplication of things that didn't need to be complicated. We really, we hit that, you know, on the media drive as well. And after living with it, we certainly have not changed our opinion on those things. It's actually gotten a little bit worse after living with it, because the technology is still glitchy at this point, and it's just overall an annoying experience to have all the tech issues when they put a lot of the controls right here in the center. There's no need for all of my controls for the steering wheel to be in the screen, and we've seen that, you know, across the board on a lot of different manufacturers' side. They try to make things look cool when they switch to an electric car, and it's not necessarily cool for me to have to go through a bunch of menus in the screen instead of just having a button. I think that is definitely my preference.
Right, if you're going to put everything in the screen, it's got to be really well executed, and this is, so far, you know, it might get updated in the future, but so far it's missing the mark.
Yeah, and it's a 7-day review, so do we like it better, the same, or worse after living with it? Well, we kind of hit on that a little bit. I have mixed emotions. I would say, generally speaking, I like it a little bit worse after living with it, just because of those tech issues and the weird quirks of this model. However, on the luxury side, I was very impressed with what Volvo has done with the ride quality, the, you know, noise insulation in here. They do have a really good luxury experience overall. They just need to really work on some of those weird quirks of this model, which we've discussed throughout this video. And now let's discuss the pricing for the EX90. This vehicle starts at $5 under $80,000, so it is pretty pricey starting. If you want the performance twin motor model, that will add $5,000 to these prices as well. The Ultra is also $84,000, so about $5,000 more than the base model. If you want one that has all the bells and whistles like this with the Bowers and Wilkins audio system, we're sitting at around $94,000 as tested today. Now, if you're looking to buy a Volvo EX90 or any new vehicle, we'd encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes. The reason you do that is because we have a tool on our website that will connect you with local car dealers in your area to get you the best price. It's also going to give you access to invoice pricing information, which is a great tool for dealership negotiation and can really help you get that best price. We even have a monthly payment tool, so we definitely encourage you to check that out in our video description, as well as the pinned comment down below. Now, buying a vehicle is about more than just the original MSRP, so let's go ahead and dive into resale and reliability. First up, let's talk about resale value. As an economics graduate myself, Drew and I took the time to develop what we think is a good estimate for this Volvo EX90's potential resale value. We estimate that after 5 years and 60,000 miles, it'll be worth 42.5% of original MSRP, and after 10 years and 120,000 miles, 12.5%. Now, it is worth noting that is definitely lower than industry average for resale value percentages. It's going to be lower than that of something like a Lexus or Acura product, but it is very much in line with the German rivals like BMW, Mercedes, and Audi. And I also want to point out that electric cars generally either have, depending on market conditions, higher or lower resale values than that average.
Now, we've also done the same for reliability by developing the Combined Reliability Index. This takes into account several trustworthy sources on reliability and combines them in a way that gives you a more holistic picture. In this regard, with our latest 2025 data, Volvo is rated well below the overall industry average for all vehicle makes.
Now, if you'd like to learn more about our resale values, reliability information, or our methodology, be sure to go to carconfections.com/resale and carconfections.com/reliability. Buying a new vehicle is a very big decision, so you want to make sure you're making a smart purchase, especially if you're cross-shopping between different vehicle brands. And I do also want to point out your warranty. That is going to be a 4-year, 50,000 miles for both your basic and powertrain warranty. You do have a special battery warranty of 8 years and 100,000 miles, and Volvo does include 3 years and 36,000 miles of complimentary maintenance. Well guys, we really hope you enjoyed watching our in-depth 7-day review of Volvo's new flagship, the EX90. If you enjoyed watching this video or found it helpful in your purchasing decisions, which we really hope you did because that was the point of us making this video, we'd appreciate if you hit that subscribe button down below. By subscribing, you're going to get the latest car reviews such as this, our 7-day reviews where we go into detail about what we really feel about the vehicle after living with it. So definitely subscribe if you haven't already. If you're already a fan and subscriber, thank you so much for your continued support, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.